Marisha Witi is a sign language interpreter tonight. Many thanks for joining us. Let's take you to Kisumu. Over 5 construction workers are fighting for their lives as frantic rescue efforts continue in Kisumu's Manyata area after a 3-story building came crashing down. KTN's Victor Ogale has been following the event for us today. Victor, what can you tell us about the rescue efforts?
Well, good evening, Linda and Ben. This afternoon, some minutes past 4 p.m., a building collapsed in Kisumu's Manyata estate, which is an informal settlement. The building was under construction, and it is believed that most of the people who have been trapped under the building were construction workers. Residents who were at the scene began with the rescue operations and were later joined by the Red Cross Society members and as well as the National Youth Service. However, the rescue operations have greatly faced challenges, and here is a story that I prepared earlier for you. The voice of Kisumu OCPD Musa Kongoli trying to persuade the public to pave way for rescue operations. Without proper tools, locals tried to save the lives of people trapped under a building they were constructing. The building collapsed at around 4 p.m. when the workers were preparing themselves to leave the vicinity. According to one of the workers who sought anonymity, they had previously questioned the owner of the building using substandard materials.
Tulishtukia ikianguka vumbi inatokea juu. Na sasa kufika huko tukaipata iko chini. Watu wa huko ndio kulikuwa na watu wengine walikuwa wanatolewa huko. Ndio wakatolewa.
Hii ilikuwa ni floor ya 3. Kuna ya pili na kuna ya kwanza. Alafu kulikuwa na ground floor, pia kulikuwa na watu huko. Walikuwa wanachota maji, wanawake walikuwa hapo, walikuwa wanapikia wenye wanafanya pia hapa kazi.
Mimi naona uchungu kwa sababu watu waka hapa chini wengi. Sasa hiyo ninafanya, nataka ili tusaidie hao watu.
The inaccessibility within Manyata, which is the second largest informal settlement in Kisumu County, led to the delay of rescue operations. By the time of going on air, only 8 people had been rescued and rushed to the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Hospital. At some point, the National Youth Service had to use force in order to make the residents give way. The police also had to fire in the air to disperse the crowds. With the growth in the urbanization of Kisumu City, most investors are venturing into real estate business. Rescue operations are still underway after the National Youth Service arrived here in Manyata and are now joining hands together with the locals here of Manyata Estate. Victor Ogale, KTN, the county of Kisumu.
And here in the capital, families in Nairobi's Kayole estate are this evening mourning following the death of 3 of their loved ones last night. Now the 3, a man, a woman and a child, was swept away by the raging floods that engulfed the city. Nairobi residents were adversely affected by the floods, with many of them getting home in the wee hours of Wednesday. Betty Kell now reports.
It was yet another flooded night in the city. The rain poured hours on end, and with it came chaos on the roads, with motorists and passengers spending ages in traffic. The rains not only wreaked havoc in Nairobi, but also left a trail of death. In Kayole, residents woke up to the devastating news that 3 people lost their lives after being swept away. According to eyewitness accounts, a woman died while trying to rescue her small son who had drowned in the river that broke its banks. A man who was also heading home from a night out also met his death here.
Saida kamuto kamejaa kanakuwa kabaya sana, na watu wengine wale wanacheka wanasema ni drainage, lakini hawajafahamu ni mto. Kama mvua ya jana imekuwa kubwa, imetusubua hata wale watu wako hapa karibu, wengine wamelala nje.
Police collected the bodies this morning, urging residents to keep off the river when heavy rains occur. The rain started Tuesday evening when many city residents were leaving offices, leaving them stranded. There were long queues in almost all bus termini. According to the meteorological department, the rains are expected to continue for the next couple of weeks. Batikialo, KTN.
From flooding tragedy in Nairobi, let's cross over to the coast, where the rains have recently left residents fighting to recover bodies buried in landslides. Francis Ontomwa now joins us from there. Francis has been following this story for us for the last couple of days. Francis, how is the situation on the ground now?
Good evening, Linda and Ben. Indeed, tragedies and destruction continues to characterize the heavy downpour that has hit many parts of the coast region. It is just a few hours when we were talking to the weathermen who are giving the kind of data that is quite disturbing. They are saying that should the situation persist, we may witness more destruction coming along. And it's just barely one day when one more body was retrieved from the mudslide that had occurred last Sunday, just to paint the situation of how serious it is here in the coast region. Here is a story that we compiled for you.
Anxious men move in, armed with crude tools, desperately digging into the mud-spattered rubble. It has just stopped to rain, but the scorching sun does not even spare them its piercing rays. The hope is one. A body still covered under the mud will finally be recovered. And when this comes to pass, what follows are demonstrations by angry residents. They raised the red flag, but seemingly no one took them seriously, at least according to their line of argument. The body is carried to Changamwe police station.
Hapa na dakika ngapi? Sisi tumetembea na only 4 minutes kuja mpaka hapa. Wewe huwezi tembea kuja kuangalia maiti ya mtu wako. Mimi nakuja. Hauwezi.
Kama uko na complaint nyingine, leta. Unasikia? Juzi tulibeba maiti pale, ni kweli?
Hiyo maiti ilitolewa na wananchi. Hakuna ofisa alikuwa nguo. Hii ni taxpayers money. Hizi magari inakuja hapa, imekuja kwa sababu wananchi. Na wala uwezi ni kuna nini?
Events that bring out the different facets that have followed the continued heavy downpour pounding parts of the coast region. Life has taken an ugly path.
Mvua ilianza kitu saa 4 hivi ya usiku mpaka asubuhi imeamkia mvua. Kila kitu kimejaa maji, hata chai hatuja kunywa tangu asubuhi, hata hatujui tuelekee wapi. Tunaitisha usaidizi kwa serikali yetu itusaidie sisi maskini.
Sasa hapa kwetu hapa tunaadhiriwa sana na janga la maji. Na pia hapa maji ikio siku zote zinajaa, siku zote nyumba zinajaa maji.
But amidst the tough times, serious questions emerge. How could authorities have afforded to bury their heads in the sand and fail to hit the weatherman's writing on the wall? In Mombasa town, structures illegally built along water channels have to a large extent been blamed for the occurrence of tragedies. Already the exercise to bring them down has commenced, but is it just firefighting by the Mombasa County government?
So yes, this is firefighting, but then the question is, this is a problem that has started way back. And as much as we would wish right now to put a pointing finger at anyone, forefathers and those who were before us who ended up putting us to where we are currently. But I think right now we need to think on a positive note.
Hivyo kuna hatua ambayo tutachukua sasa hivi kwa sababu turuhusu maji yapite, ule ukuta uko pale utafunguliwa, na kama kuna mtu yote amejenga katika maeneo ya maji sehemu hii ajitayarishe.
Whether constructions in the town have been subjected to professional scrutiny is something else entirely, as it now appears. The falling of a wall at Mburukenge area in Chuda following the heavy rains, exposing the soft underbelly. The Kenya Red Cross Society and other well-wishers have started to give humanitarian assistance.
We are anticipating that, according to the information that we've been able to receive from the weather forecast, that this particular rain is going to continue. There's a likelihood that this particular number will be able to increase. We are not hoping as in it affects most of the people, but we are on alert in terms of this particular number is going to increase.
It is increasingly becoming clear that sins from the past are coming back haunting. And depending on how authorities tread on this, it may mean make or break for the residents of affected areas. Francis Ontomwa, KTN, Mombasa.
Thank you, Francis. Definitely all Kenyans feeling the effects of the heavy rains. I spent an hour on the road, and I live 3 kilometers from the office.
An hour. I got home at about midnight, but that was not the concern. There was a lady apparently on Twitter. She was saying she had a 3-month-old, and I think they got home at about 4 a.m. That was so painful. Yeah, and unfortunately the weatherman says these rains will be here probably for the next 1 month or so. So let's see how this goes. We hope we will not lose more lives in this.
Now, members of the Senate have sworn to do everything to fight back the move by the National Assembly members to slash their budget by up to 1 billion Kenya shillings.
After the Senate fought hard for 3.3 billion shillings extra funding for counties, the National Assembly members ceded ground but fought back by slashing budgets of Senate, Treasury and a constitutional commission.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
The National Assembly today bowed to pressure from the Senate and other quarters to approve the demand for 3.3 billion shillings extra funding for the counties. But the MPs gave to the governors with the right hand what they have taken from other arms of government with the left hand. To get the 3.3 billion shillings, the National Assembly has decided to slash the budgets of the Senate, the Judiciary and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission in order to give the money to the counties.
When the welfare of the state is at stake, I think philosophically the stronger person should take the upper moral position by actually conceding. Therefore, I think the Parliament has done the right thing. But we're telling the Senate 3.3 billion is not a huge amount. We will give it to the county governments, and they should ask themselves, the 190 billion we gave to the county governments in 2013-2014, the 230 plus billion we gave in 2014-2015, the 258 billion we are giving today, is this felt on the ground?
The Senate will lose 1 billion shillings of their budget. The Judiciary will lose 800 million shillings, while the SRC will lose 200 million shillings.
The senators must be involved and engaged in the entire process.
We must also insist on value for money.
But mind that corruption has been devolved. We want the governors to know, and this is in Article 226 of the Constitution, that whatever mess they are putting across, they are not off the hook.
The MPs approved the compromise version of the Division of Revenue Bill 2015, giving counties 286.9 billion shillings. The National Treasury will give up 1.3 billion shillings for the county's kitty.
If there is a chicken thief in the village does not stop raising chicken. What the village does is to catch the thief and continue raising chicken.
Nominated MP Amina Abdallah warned her colleagues that they were opening too many war fronts by cutting the budgets of the other arms and commissions. Senators who spoke after the National Assembly session warned the National Assembly members that they were spoiling for a fight. The approval of the bills means that the government will now not have to worry about a cash crunch when the financial year closes in 26 days. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Let's stay with that story by Patrick Amimo. The National Assembly has slashed budgets of Senate, Treasury and the Constitutional Commission. Tonight we are asking for your comment on the National Assembly's move to slash Senate's budget.
Is there another looming superiority battle between the National Assembly and the Senate? We'll wait to see if that happens. But tell us what you think. SMS your opinion to 22155. You can tweet it at Ben_Kitili, at Linda Ogutu and at KTN Kenya. Shall be sampling some of your views. Now, the biggest story in world football is the resignation of Sepp Blatter as FIFA president. Let's not try and bring that back home now. Blatter announced his resignation, which elicited mixed reactions, especially here in Africa. Here, some believe he was instrumental in bringing the World Cup to Africa when South Africa hosted it in 2010. The Kenyan soccer leaders, under Sam Nyamoya's leadership, say they are grateful to Blatter and expect his successor will have a soft spot for Africa.
Let's go FIFA! Let's go FIFA! Thank you! Thank you so much! Thank you! Thank you!
By Friday, May 29th, Blatter may not have figured out the effect of the investigation started by the United States Attorney General, which netted 14 individuals, 7 of whom are FIFA senior members. That, together with the threat by the European Football Association UEFA to delink from FIFA, are seen to have been the reasons that convinced the 79-year-old Sepp Blatter to step aside. His announcements on Tuesday elicited mixed reactions, especially in Africa, where some sees him as having been instrumental in bringing the World Cup to Africa, over and above the goal projects dotting across Africa. The after effects are yet to sink in, but for now, it is about looking back at what he has done.
He means well. He has supported Africa, and that's for sure. And that's why Africans voted for him overwhelmingly. Asia, South America and other areas.
Blatter's sudden decision is believed to have been sparked by the latest revelations in corruption scandal, in which the FBI has confirmed that Jack Warner was paid a bribe of 980 million shillings by South Africa to win the rights to host the 2010 World Cup.
This is not a bribe, but an above-board payment duly allocated for an approved program. We will therefore await the United States authorities to share with us the basis on which they allege that this allocation was a bribe.
In fact, latest reports indicate that Blatter is under a new investigation.
Well, I would say Black Brexit at large is good for the world. Let us not just talk Africa, because Africa is not all football. It's good for the world. He did what he did for Africa. We will live to remember him. But by and large, I do believe it's going to be better for a bit better for the world football.
Among other things, Blatter has been commended for FIFA's goal projects as a very vital investment in the game across the continent and the increase in African nation participation in the World Cup. Something Africa might miss. Africa's representation at the World Cup increased from 1 in 1974 to the current 5.
Likely the one who takes off from him will even more strengthen, because he has to wear his shoes even better. So the question of whether the African countries will suffer, I don't believe so. Because, you know, Plata is not FIFA. Plata is the associations, and all of us combined. So we are the people who make decisions.
But while Jordanian Football Association President Prince Ali and UEFA President rank high as Blatter's successors, the fact that Blatter might influence the process cannot be ruled out.
I'm sure when he comes out and thinks this is likely to be a successor, that successor will most likely get the same support.
I like my job and I like to be with you. I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect.
Moses Wahisi, KTN.
Of course, a lot of reactions from Kenyans, with some pushing the Kenyan Federation to also follow. So we shall wait and see how that plays out in the coming days. Now, on the big question tonight, we're asking you, what is your comment on the National Assembly's move to slash the budget of the Senate?
Ike Ojok says MPs are engaging in unnecessary supremacy war. Slashing the budget was unfair.
And another one here from Maina Wamboi says, shares that opinion, says what we're witnessing is a power struggle which has become too familiar between these two.
So what are your thoughts on that move to slash Senate's budget? Let us know what you think. You can tweet us and we'll share some of your opinions on this bulletin. Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. We are taking a short break, but when we come back, we'll have more news for you. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with KTN Prime. A National Assembly member has reacted angrily to claims by Deputy President William Ruto that the MP stage-managed the burning of houses during an eviction inside the Mau Forest.
Despite the April 27th videos that showed houses burning and area leaders complaining bitterly, Ruto implied during an interview on Citizen TV that the media was used to highlight a non-existent eviction. Take a look.
I mean, one member of parliament went to, he was posing. He went and lit a house, and he was posing, literally. And it was in one media house. And we know the owners of that media house, which program they have.
It is the latest statement that has once again created controversy around Deputy President William Ruto. Speaking on Citizen TV's Big Question interview Tuesday night, the DP seemed to suggest that the Emurua Dikir Member of Parliament, Johanna Ngeno, torched the houses himself and used the Standard Group to accuse the government of forcibly evicting settlers from the Mau Forest.
He went and lit a house, and he was posing, you know.
He lit the house himself,
and he was posing there, alone. There was nobody else. The owner of the house was not there. Even the cows were not there. The chicken were not there. He was posing.
Ngeno called for a hastily prepared press conference to clear up the issue. He claims the government started its silent evictions when the matter was still in contention.
to our dismay, instead of actually looking at the problems which were facing these particular individuals in the forests or in that particular settlement, the government continued even destroying schools.
Ngeno then went after the deputy president over his allegations that he set the houses on fire in order to frame the government.
The sentiments, especially expressed by the deputy president yesterday, were very unfortunate. Very unfortunate in the sense that it should not have come from a leader of his caliber. These are matters which you need to make serious investigation. These are matters which you need to make thorough investigation with the systems they have and the machinery they have.
In the beginning of May, Ruto assured that the government would not use force to evict families from water catchment areas without involving leaders from the affected regions. But now, he says the deputy president seems to have lost touch with what is going down inside Mau.
This is somebody who lives in denial. He could even deny that he's the deputy president if he is to avoid a scandal or to avoid an issue that arises.
Wilson Buru, KTN Prime.
Former President Daniel Arap Moi today called on the people of South Sudan to do everything they can to restore peace to Africa's youngest nation. Moi, who was instrumental in the Sudan peace mission before the two countries separated, spoke passionately about the fighting that has been going on over the last 1 year. Speaking as he met the South Sudanese delegation at his Kabarak home, Moi urged the delegation not to run away from the responsibilities of making peace and promoting national integration.
I'm going to so as to explore ways in which you can contribute towards peace. You can do this by forging a joint platform which you can speak with a common voice on peace for your country.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of KTN Business. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. After a 2-month recruitment process, President Uhuru Kenyatta has appointed Patrick Ngugi Njoroge as the next Central Bank of Kenya governor. As economist and currently consulting for the International Monetary Fund, Ngugi will have to hit the ground running if approved by Parliament in reassuring the market over the weakening shilling. And in a twist of events, the current Deputy Governor has been retained in his position despite having applied for the top job. It's been an interesting 2 months as the country waited to see who would be appointed the next governor of the Central Bank of Kenya. It was the first time there appeared to be a power vacuum at the bank charged with dictating monetary policy. But the president finally settled on his man, Patrick Ngugi Njoroge. The governor in waiting is currently an advisor with International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C. and is said to have a wealth of knowledge in economics with a doctorate of philosophy in economics from Yale University. If approved by Parliament, Ngugi will replace Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, whose term expired at the end of March. The incoming governor will have a full in-tray and will have to hit the ground running. Over the past 6 months, the Kenya shilling has been under pressure from a strengthening dollar that has seen the local unit hit 3-year highs. The central bank has already announced it will be bringing its monetary policy meeting a month forward to June 9th. If approved on time, Ngugi will chair his first meeting faster than other governors. In an interesting twist, the president appointed Haron Sirima as deputy governor despite having applied for the top job. Sirima, until his appointment, was seen as a front-runner to fill the position. Recruitment for the deputy governor position is said to have slowed the appointment process after the Public Service Commission re-advertised the position after what it termed as lack of a suitable candidate. Ahmed Nyaoga, a renowned lawyer, has been nominated as chair of the Central Bank of Kenya. The candidates nominated will now await vetting by the National Assembly upon official appointment. Professor Ndungu is said to have changed the financial landscape from one that was shrouded in mystery to one that is a key driver of innovation. Expectations are high now that the biggest challenge that awaits the new leadership is the weakened shilling. The US dollar continues to gain ground world over. This is one of the challenges the new CBK leadership will have to tackle. And in this week's edition of The Adventurer, we take a look at the advertising industry and just how much it is fetching for entrepreneurs in the country. Tonight, KTN's Charles Gitonga spoke to one of the top entrepreneurs in the advertising industry.
Broadcast and print media have traditionally been the major platforms for advertisement, but there's a new concept that is fast gaining traction in the Kenyan market, and that is the outdoor transit advertising, whereby you simply design an advertisement and place it on the vehicle. And this is a kind of business that one Trusha Ketia has been doing for the last 2 years, to the point of earning him a spot on the Forbes list of the most promising young entrepreneurs of 2015 in Africa.
I am the founder and CEO of 3 companies in 2 countries. We've got Tria Group, which is a bus advertising, a transit media company that focuses on bus advertising in Kenya. We've got Tria in Tanzania as well, so same business, focused on bus advertising and also airline advertising. And the newest baby to the family is called Society Stores, a completely different business that is a retail supermarket based in Thika. I was lucky to have gone to Manchester for my degree, and my main form of transport was about traveling in buses and the underground tubes in London, and you used to see a phenomenal amount of advertising on every single bus, inside, outside. As I said, in the taxis, nothing would be left. In fact, if you saw a bus that was not branded, that was odd. So, because I've always been such a product curious, a brand curious person, it just gave me that feeling, that idea, saying, do you know what, I asked myself, wouldn't it be cool if you had a company that just focused on bus advertising? The first step, right, was just registering a company on paper, right? So November 2012 is officially when Tria, 9th of November 2012 is when Tria was actually born, on paper, purely on paper, zero value, nothing. That was the first step. It was a matter of thinking that I have made a commitment. I do have a company. It's worth 0 shillings, 0 cents now, but I know one day it's going to grow to be something amazing.
How much initial capital did you invest in this, and where did it come from?
From my time in UK of having worked, from the time of moving back to Kenya, and also further like working in terms of employment, I was able to save up about $1 million, $2 million on the side. And that was a good way for me to be able to fund a lot of the few things, you know, the registration expenses. The retail story is the interesting one, because retail's been in my blood, and I say that because that is how my upbringing in Kitale has been. Right? I've been brought up in that shop environment, and as I've seen my family business do well within wholesale, retail and all that, is something I was always passionate about. So again, to commit myself, October 2013 is when I registered Society Stores on paper, but it took a year before October 2014 when we opened the store to make my first day of sale. So it took a year. Entrepreneurship is about mindsets. It's about having that positive attitude to overlook past the risk and be able to say, I know I'm taking a risk. The initial road will and is bumpy, but I'm going to come out through a fantastic, smooth tarmac road you should be the first person who stands up and says, you know what, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to make it no matter what anyone else says or thinks.
After just 2 years of operating in the advertising industry, Trusha Keita's work and entrepreneurial spirit continues to stand out. His main drive is passion, and perhaps something to think about. The man who stops advertising to save money is the same man who will stop a clock to save time. Charles Gitonga for The Adventure.
Thanks, Charles. Now, Kenya is looking to Asia and countries in Africa to diversify its flower export market. Currently, Kenya is the lead exporter of rose-cut flowers to the European Union with a market share of about 38%. This comes in the wake of ongoing talks over the European partnership agreements that currently limit entry into Europe. According to the Kenya Flower Council, their efforts to promote Kenyan flowers in Japan is already bearing fruit, and Kenya is now the second largest exporter of flowers to that market. The council is also optimistic that flowers exported to America would also increase. Currently, most of the Kenyan flowers in the US market are re-exports from Netherlands. Some of the countries Kenya is targeting to grow its market share include Japan, where currently it is the leading export of cut flowers.
Safe production of cut flowers.
There was quite a lot of trepidation when the euro did go to a world record figure against the shilling, and also the dollar made some massive surprises on the macro global economic environment. It did affect our clients quite hugely. Some 20% went off the margin.
Now, for us to protect our 35% market share, we need Ethiopia to be doing very well, particularly in terms of quality, and to see ourselves as the preferred region for roses, for African roses. So we cannot in any way pretend that we can meet all the requirements of the African roses.
All right, now let's take a look at how the Kenyan shilling did perform today, and also how the other currencies did perform against the Kenyan shilling.
More than 14 national football teams, Harambee Stars players, reported into a presidential training camp today in preparation for the upcoming international friendlies and the African Cup of Nations qualifiers. Head coach Bobby Williamson hopes local Premier League clubs will discharge players in time for their ties. Robinson Okenye tells us more.
After a morning of confusion regarding the venue the team was to train, Harambee Stars finally settled for the World Hope Center to begin their journey to the Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. The first day of the camp started with 14 players. Head coach Bobby Williamson is preparing the Stars for the upcoming international friendlies before embarking on Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. The conditions of the stadium were not conducive when measured against the assignment ahead, but there was no alternative.
Yeah, the boys have turned up. We've trained for an hour. The conditions are not the best, and I don't want to sap their energy and leave their legs out in this training field.
Training in a field like this, in fact, we felt disappointed, but again, as I said, when the training started, we enjoyed, and we had our day. So we believe by tomorrow we'll have a better pitch than this one.
With sections of football fans expressing concerns over some of the old and experienced players being left out of coach Bobby Williamson's provisional squad, the tactician said it's time for the youngsters to step into the big stage.
But we've got a lot of talented young players, and we've got to give them experience. You can't bring older players along and leave them sitting on benches and not take them to game.
We have a big load to carry, so Kenyans expect a lot from us, and we'll just try to give our best.
Stars are scheduled to take on Rwanda in an international friendly before shifting focus to AFCON qualifiers.
These are the conditions of the pitch that the national team is currently training on. But despite that challenge, these boys are committed to ensure that Kenya gets back to its glory days in football. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
When the National Association, Football Kenya Federation and Media Buyers MP and Silva entered into an agreement, they did so in the understanding that FKF Premier League would be the superior league and that clubs would get $1 million shillings every month. This has not been the case and clubs are now up in arms. The National Association had a meeting with the clubs, and while the clubs did not look content after the closed-door deliberations with promises that the federation will honor the arrears. Another issue that has affected the league is officiating, with referees yet to receive their dues, and while promises have been made that they will be paid the FKF Premier League, teams now want the federation to honor their pledge. The two have agreed on a 3-day ultimatum.
He gave us his word that by the beginning of business today, by the end of business today, you'll have started disbursing payments towards those arrears.
The clubs feel that we must sustain the sponsor who has been sponsoring us, and I'm doing everything possible for the money to come in, although we are renegotiating.
Mama has Mortein Doom, which makes mosquitoes go away and not come back the whole night. So you get a peaceful night's sleep all night long.
Mortein Doom. A peaceful night is a Mortein Doom night.
Alright, so let's look at our big question before we wind this up. We are looking for your comments on National Assembly's move to slash Senate's budget.
Here are some of your comments. Brian Aboy says they should not have a fight on money alone, they should also have that on security matters.
Jairo Nyamwanga says Senate and National Assembly cannot peacefully coexist if legislative power is still with MPs.
Alan Orao tweets, this is a carefully hatched ploy to stifle the Senate and sabotage its oversight role.
Eugene Wahungu says senators should play their oversight roles without demanding extra cash for that.
Thank you for participating in our big question discussion tonight.
Indeed, and for watching KTN Prime. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Linda Ogutu.
Namben Kitili, good night from the KTN News Center. If you're a fan of literature, books, plays, and if you love the play The Trial of Dead and Kimathi like myself, you do not want to miss Jeff Koinange live coming up shortly.